The aroma of freshly baked pizza had always been Michael Carter's favorite scent. For 15 years it had greeted him every morning as he unlocked the doors of Carter's Classic Pizza, reminding him of the dream he built from scratch. But today that familiar smell turned his stomach into knots as he stood across the street from his restaurant dressed in clothes he'd borrowed from his teenage son. "You've got this, Mike," he whispered to himself, adjusting the baseball cap that felt foreign on his head. The vintage Red Sox cap, worn and faded, had been a strategic choice. His employees knew he was a die-hard Yankees fan. His usual crisp button-downs and dress pants had been replaced with baggy jeans and an oversized hoodie. Through the large windows he could see his staff moving around with a casualness that made his jaw clench. Something was very wrong with his restaurant. The spreadsheets told a clear story. In the past 3 months their revenue had dropped by 40%. Mrs. Romano, who had been coming in every Tuesday for 14 years, hadn't shown up in weeks. The Martinez family had canceled their standing reservation. Even the high school basketball team now ordered from Pizza Hut instead. Michael pulled out his phone and opened his restaurant's review page. The latest 1-star review glared at him. "Found a hair in my pizza, manager didn't even care, never coming back." He knew for a fact that all his kitchen staff wore hairnets. It was a rule he'd enforced religiously since day one. Taking a deep breath, he crossed the street. The bell chimed as he entered. "Welcome to Carter's," Tom, the newer cashier, mumbled without looking up from his phone. Michael had hired him 2 months ago. "Yeah, can I get a slice of pepperoni and a Coke?" Michael pitched his voice higher than usual, adding a slight tremor. "That'll be $7.50, Tom replied with the kind of bored expression that made Michael want to launch into his customer service speech. As Michael paid, he noticed Tom didn't enter the order into the POS system, the one Michael had spent thousands upgrading. Instead, he scribbled something on a notepad. Michael took his receipt and frowned. The paper was different, cheaper than the thermal paper they usually used. Finding a seat near the counter, Michael settled in to observe. His slice arrived lukewarm, the cheese congealed in a way that made him wince. A group of construction workers came in, regulars who usually ordered the meat lovers special. Lisa, his other cashier, took their order. Again, no POS system. She wrote something in what looked like a separate notepad. "The quality's gone downhill," one of the construction workers muttered to his colleague. "Remember how good it used to be?" Michael's fingers tightened around his pizza slice. He'd inherited his grandfather's recipe book filled with margin notes and secret techniques passed down through generations. What was happening to his restaurant? The lunch rush began and Michael noticed whenever a customer complained, and there were many. Tom and Lisa exchanged quick glances. Their responses seemed rehearsed. "We'll let the owner know," or "Management is aware of the issues." Then came the moment that made his blood run cold. A young mother approached the counter, her face flushed with anger. "This is the 3rd time this week my delivery order has been wrong. I ordered a plain cheese pizza for my kid's birthday party. This is covered in jalapenos and hot sauce. I'm so sorry, ma'am, our delivery system has been having issues lately." Lisa's response was almost too smooth. "Would you like a refund?" "I want to speak to the owner," the woman demanded. "Mr. Carter is away on business," Tom cut in quickly. "He's been dealing with some personal issues." Michael felt his chest tighten. He hadn't been away. He'd been in his office every day going over the books. How many other customers had been told he was away? As the woman left with her refund, Michael heard something that made him freeze. Lisa leaned over to Tom, her voice dropped to a whisper, but in the momentary lull her words carried clearly. "It's almost too easy. He still thinks people just don't like his pizza anymore." Michael's heart stopped. He reached slowly for his phone, his fingers trembling as he opened the voice recorder app. He positioned his phone carefully on the table, its microphone pointed toward the counter. The conversation between Tom and Lisa continued. "Did you see his face when he checked the numbers last week?" Lisa snickered. "Looked like he was going to cry." Michael remembered that moment. He'd been in his office staring at the monthly reports. He thought he'd been alone. "The best part," Tom leaned closer, his voice dropping even lower. He's still using his grandfather's special recipe, measuring everything to the gram like it matters. He patted his pocket where Michael had noticed a small vial. Meanwhile, the sauce modifier? Lisa asked, raising an eyebrow. Just a few drops make any pizza taste like cardboard. Completely safe, just kills the flavor. Dylan's chemist friend is a genius. The name hit Michael like a physical blow. Dylan. The memories flooded back. A tall, lanky young man with intense eyes and a chip on his shoulder. Michael had hired him 8 months ago as a shift manager. Then the register shortages started. Michael had installed new security cameras and caught Dylan pocketing cash. The confrontation had been ugly. Dylan had screamed about his student loans, about how people like Michael had everything handed to them. Michael had written it off as the angry words of a desperate young man. Speaking of Dylan, Lisa continued, he wants us to step it up. Carter's too stubborn, not selling fast enough. Time for phase 2. Tom grinned. Already on it. Got a friend at the health department who's willing to find some violations next week. Major ones. Isn't that risky? Nah, Dylan's got it covered. The inspector's got gambling debts and Dylan's got photos. Besides, once Carter sells, the new owners will make all the violations disappear like magic. Michael felt sick. His grandfather had drilled food safety into him since he was tall enough to reach the counter. The thought of someone deliberately sabotaging that made his blood boil. The bell chimed and Michael glanced up to see Sarah Chin, his head chef for the past decade, walk in wearing her street clothes. She wasn't scheduled to work today. Hey guys, is Carter in? Nah, he's hiding in his office as usual, Tom replied. Probably crying over the books again. Sarah's face tightened. I need to check something in the kitchen. Wait, Lisa called out too quickly. Health inspector coming soon, better not have any unauthorized personnel back there. Sarah paused, her hand on the door. Since when do you care about health regulations? The tension was thick. Michael watched as Tom's hand moved to his pocket, the one with the vial, and Sarah's eyes followed the movement. You know what? Sarah said carefully. Never mind. I'll come back later. As she turned to leave, Michael caught a glimpse of something in her hand, a small camera. She pushed through the front door and through the window he saw her pull out her phone and make a call. Think she suspects? Tom asked, watching Sarah's retreating figure. Lisa shrugged. Doesn't matter. By next week this place will be drowning in health code violations. After that, Carter will be lucky if he can sell this place for enough to cover his loans. Dylan's buyer is ready. Yes, some chain restaurant developer. They're going to tear the place down, build a franchise. Dylan gets a finder's fee, we get our bonuses, and Carter gets to watch his precious family legacy turned into another cookie-cutter burger joint. Michael's grip on his pizza slice had turned it into dough again. The recipe book in his office contained more than just pizza recipes, it held memories. His father teaching him how to knead dough, his grandfather showing him how to test the sauce by smell, the day they'd opened together. But they'd made a mistake. They'd assumed his silence meant weakness. They'd underestimated what a man would do to protect his family's legacy. Michael waited until Tom and Lisa were busy before slipping out. As he walked to his car around the corner, a familiar voice stopped him. Nice hat. Yankees fan like you must have hated wearing it. Sarah Chin stepped out from behind a delivery van, her arms crossed. Michael's heart jumped, but her slight smile told him she wasn't there to expose him. How long have you known? He asked. Since you walked in. You have a distinctive limp from that high school baseball injury. But more importantly, she pulled out her phone. I've been gathering evidence for weeks. Michael stared at his head chef. You knew about Dylan's plan? Not everything, but I knew something was wrong when the suppliers started changing without authorization. Premium ingredients replaced with cheap substitutes, delivery orders mysteriously getting mixed up. She showed him photos on her phone, screenshots of text messages, pictures of tampered invoices, even a video of Tom adding something to the sauce. Why didn't you come to me? Michael asked, trying to keep the hurt from his voice. Sarah's expression darkened. Because at first I thought you were in on it. Think about it, Michael. The restaurant's insurance policy was updated 3 months ago. The property value assessment was redone. It looked like you were preparing to sell, maybe even orchestrating the decline yourself for the insurance payout. Michael felt like he'd been punched. The insurance update had been routine. The property assessment had been for a loan he'd hoped would help them through the rough patch. But from the outside, he could see how it looked suspicious. What changed your mind? This. Sarah pulled up a text message chain. Dylan got sloppy, started bragging to his friends. I was at the bar last week when he got drunk and let some details slip. That's when I realized you were the target, not the mastermind. They moved to Sarah's car where they could talk privately. What she revealed next made Michael's blood run cold. Dylan's not working alone, Sarah explained, pulling out a folder. He's just a pawn. Look at this. She handed Michael a stack of papers, property records, zoning applications, development plans. Riverside Development Corporation, Michael read. They've been buying up properties all along the street. Your restaurant is the last holdout in their plan for a new shopping complex. They tried to buy you out legitimately 6 months ago. Michael remembered. I told them the restaurant wasn't for sale at any price. Exactly. That's when they hired Dylan. He'd been bragging about getting fired, about knowing the restaurant's weaknesses. They offered him a chance at revenge plus a percentage of the development deal. Michael flipped through the papers, his hands shaking. Property assessments, environmental surveys, construction permits, all dated months before Dylan's firing. This wasn't just revenge, it was corporate sabotage. But here's what Dylan doesn't know, Sarah continued with a grim smile. Once the sale goes through, Riverside plans to frame him for everything. They've got a paper trail showing him acting alone, threatening their employees, even blackmailing the health inspector independently. He thinks he's getting a big payout, but he's actually setting himself up to take the fall. How did you get all this? Sarah hesitated. Remember my brother, the one who works in corporate law. He recognized Riverside's tactics from another case. They've done this before, finding disgruntled ex-employees to do their dirty work, then disposing of them. Michael's mind was spinning. There's more, Sarah said. The health inspector visit next week. It's not just about violations. They're going to find evidence of money laundering. They've been setting up a paper trail making it look like you've been running a criminal enterprise. The business downturn would be the perfect cover for why you'd suddenly sell. That's why they changed the receipt paper. Michael realized. They're creating a second set of books. Exactly. Tom and Lisa think they're just helping with a revenge scheme. They don't realize they're participating in a criminal conspiracy that could land everyone in federal prison. Michael leaned back, closing his eyes. His grandfather had started this restaurant with nothing but a recipe book and a dream. Now not only was he about to lose it all, but his family's legacy would be tarnished with accusations of criminality. Unless, Sarah said slowly, you said Dylan doesn't know about Riverside's plan to betray him? No, he's completely in the dark. Why? A plan was forming in Michael's mind. Because that's our way in. Dylan thinks he's the mastermind. Riverside thinks they're controlling everything from the shadows. Tom and Lisa think they're just helping with some harmless sabotage. Everyone's operating on different levels of information. What are you thinking? I'm thinking it's time to let them all know exactly who they're dealing with. Michael pulled out his phone. But first I need to make a call to an old friend at the FBI's white-collar crime division. And then, he smiled for the first time that day. I'm going to need your help with a special recipe. Sarah raised an eyebrow. The kind that involves your grandfather's secret sauce? Or the kind that involves serving someone their just desserts? Both, Michael said, his smile turning grim. Definitely both. The next 3 days were the hardest of Michael's life. Every morning he drove to Carter's as usual, disappearing into his office while Sarah kept watch. But now his office had become a command center. Your friend at the FBI came through, Sarah whispered during a brief meeting, sliding a small device across his desk. It's a high-quality recording device. Better than your phone. Michael picked up what looked like an ordinary pen. And they're really interested in Riverside? Very. Turns out your case connects to 3 other similar situations in different states. They've been building a RICO case against Riverside for months. A knock at the office door made them both jump. It was Tom holding delivery receipts. Mr. Carter, these need your signature. Michael signed with deliberate slowness using his new recording pen. Everything okay, Tom? You seem nervous. No, sir, everything's fine. Tom's hand went to his pocket, the one where he kept the vial. After Tom left, Sarah shook her head. He's getting suspicious. Yesterday he asked me why you weren't more upset about the latest health code violation threat. Perfect. Michael smiled. That means it's time for phase 1. Make the call. Sarah pulled out her phone. Hi Dylan, it's Sarah Chin from Carter's. Listen, I've been thinking about what you said at the bar. Can we meet? There's something you should know about Riverside Development. The meeting was set for that evening. Meanwhile, Michael had another appointment, the regional offices of Riverside Development Corporation. Mr. Carter, Gerald Walsh, Riverside's regional director, stood to greet him with practiced corporate warmth. What a pleasant surprise. Is it? Michael kept his voice neutral. I would think you've been expecting me. Walsh's smile didn't waver. Oh? My restaurant's been having some troubles lately. Health code issues, bad reviews, mysterious problems with suppliers. The kind of troubles that might make a man consider selling. The restaurant business can be challenging, Walsh offered smoothly. Actually, we might be interested in making an offer. Save it. Michael cut him off. I'm not here to sell. I'm here to make you an offer. That got Walsh's attention. His smile flickered. I have some interesting documents, Michael continued. Records of payments to a certain disgruntled ex-employee. Evidence of corporate espionage. Proof of attempted fraud. The FBI finds it all very interesting. Walsh's smile vanished. That's a serious accusation, Mr. Carter. One that could result in a defamation lawsuit. Check your phone, Michael said. Right on cue, Walsh's cell phone buzzed. He looked at it, and Michael watched with satisfaction as the color drained from his face. Sarah had just sent Dylan the proof of Riverside's plan to frame him, and Dylan was already forwarding it to everyone he knew, including his contacts at Riverside. Disgruntled employees can be so unpredictable, can't they? Michael stood up. Especially when they find out they've been played for fools. I'll let you deal with the fallout. Oh, and Mr. Walsh, my restaurant isn't for sale. Not now, not ever. As Michael walked out, his phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Dylan went ballistic. He's threatening to go to the media about everything. Your FBI friends are moving in. Phase 1 was complete. Dylan's rage at being betrayed would ensure he exposed every detail of Riverside's operation, not realizing he was incriminating himself in the process. Michael drove back to Carter's, arriving just before the dinner rush. Tom and Lisa were at the counter looking anxious. They'd surely heard from Dylan by now. Tom, Lisa, Michael called out. Could you join me in my office? They followed, exchanging nervous glances. Michael sat behind his desk, noting how Tom's hand kept straying to his pocket. Interesting substance you've got there, Tom, Michael said casually. The FBI lab found it fascinating. Completely untraceable under normal circumstances, but their mass spectrometers are anything but normal. Tom's face went white. Lisa started to stand, but Michael's next words froze her. Sit down, both of you. You're about to learn the difference between being conspirators and being witnesses. He laid out their options with brutal clarity. They could either cooperate fully, telling the FBI everything they knew about Dylan and Riverside's operation, or they could face charges as willing participants in corporate espionage and food tampering. But you don't understand, Lisa protested weakly. We didn't know about any corporate stuff. Dylan just said we were helping him get revenge. By poisoning innocent customers? Michael's voice was ice. By deliberately destroying a business that feeds 50 families through its employees' paychecks? Tell me, what's the going rate for betrayal these days? Before they could respond, Sarah burst into the office. Michael, you need to see this. She turned on the small TV, switching to the local news. Dylan's face filled the screen as he ranted to reporters outside Riverside's offices, waving documents and making wild accusations. In the background, FBI agents could be seen entering the building. Looks like your friend decided to go public after all, Michael told his shocked employees. So what's it going to be? Witnesses or defendants? Tom reached into his pocket, pulled out the vial, and placed it on Michael's desk with trembling hands. We'll tell you everything. Good choice, Michael said, picking up his recording pen. Start from the beginning and don't leave anything out. As Tom and Lisa began their confession, Michael caught Sarah's eye and nodded slightly. Phase 2 was unfolding perfectly. But the real test would come tomorrow when he implemented the final part of his plan, one that would either save his restaurant or destroy it completely. The morning after Dylan's public meltdown, Carter's Classic Pizza was surrounded by news vans. Michael watched them from his office window. They're all here, Sarah reported. Channel 4, Channel 7, even that food blogger who gave us the first bad review 3 months ago. Let them wait, Michael replied, reviewing the documents spread across his desk. Tom and Lisa's signed confessions, Dylan's text messages, financial records showing Riverside's pattern of manipulation. Are you sure about this? Sarah asked. It's risky. Sometimes the best defense is a good offense, Michael answered. Is everything ready in the kitchen? Just like you asked, though I still don't understand. A commotion outside interrupted her. Through the window they saw Dylan trying to push past the reporters, his face red with rage. 2 FBI agents followed close behind but weren't intervening. Right on time, Michael smiled. Let's give him what he came for. Dylan burst into the restaurant. Carter, he shouted. You set me up. The lunch crowd turned to stare, smartphones appearing, recording the scene. Michael stepped calmly from his office. Dylan, I was hoping you'd stop by. You think you're so clever. Dylan spat. Getting me to expose Riverside, making me look like their puppet. I'll tell everyone what really happened. You mean how you stole from the register? Michael's voice carried clearly through the now silent restaurant. Or how you paid people to leave fake reviews? Maybe about the chemical you had Tom add to the food? Dylan's face shifted from rage to uncertainty. Behind him, the FBI agents moved closer, but Michael raised a hand to stop them. This confrontation needed to play out perfectly. You don't have proof of any of that, Dylan said, but his voice wavered. Michael pulled out his phone. Actually, I do. Want to hear yourself plotting with Tom and Lisa? Or should we discuss the text you sent about bribing the health inspector? He looked past Dylan to the growing crowd of reporters pressing against the windows. I'm sure the media would love to hear it all. You're bluffing, Dylan snarled, but he took a step back. Am I? Michael turned to the customers. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for this disruption. To make it up to you, today's meals are on the house. And you're about to witness something special. I'm going to make every pizza myself using my grandfather's original recipe. The real recipe, without any of Dylan's modifications. The customers murmured with interest. The food blogger pushed her way inside, camera ready. Sarah, Michael called. Would you bring me my grandfather's book? Sarah emerged carrying the worn recipe book. As she handed it to Michael, Dylan lunged forward. That book is worth nothing, he shouted. Your precious family recipes. I copied them all months ago. I'll open my own place, do it better than you ever could. Michael opened the book calmly. You copied these recipes? Are you sure about that? Something in his tone made Dylan pause. The real recipes, Michael continued, are written in Armenian, my grandfather's native language. What you copied was the English version, the fake one I created the day after I caught you stealing. The color drained from Dylan's face. What? I knew you'd try something after I fired you, so I prepared. Every recipe you stole, every technique you copied, They're all slightly wrong. Just enough to ensure the food never tastes quite right. The food blogger gasped audibly. Several customers were filming now. That's impossible, Dylan whispered. Is it? Did you ever wonder why your new business plan wasn't attracting any investors? Why Riverside had to promise you so much money to help destroy my restaurant instead of just letting you compete with it? Michael stepped closer. Because they tested your recipes and knew they'd never work. Dylan's legs seemed to give out. He sank into a nearby chair, the fight draining from him as the full implications hit. The real recipes never left this book, Michael said, patting the worn cover. And now I'm going to show everyone exactly what they've been missing. For the next 2 hours, Michael worked in the open kitchen, narrating each step as he made pizza after pizza. The customers watched in amazement. The food blogger's live stream attracted thousands of viewers. But while Michael cooked, Sarah was implementing the final phase of their plan in the office, scanning and uploading documents, sending emails, making calls. The evidence of Riverside's conspiracy wasn't just going to the FBI. It was going to their shareholders, their board of directors, and their competitors. By the end of the day, Riverside Development Corporation's stock had dropped 15%. Their board called an emergency meeting. 3 executives resigned. And Carter's Classic Pizza had a line around the block. They'll try to bury this, Sarah warned as they finally closed up that night. Riverside has powerful lawyers. They can try, Michael said, holding up a document. But tomorrow morning I'm filing a RICO lawsuit against them. Not just for the attempted takeover, but for every business they've destroyed in the past 5 years. And guess who's agreed to testify? Sarah's eyes widened as she looked at the signature at the bottom. Is that Riverside's former CFO? Yes. Turns out he's been looking for a way to come clean for months. Dylan's public meltdown gave him the perfect opportunity. Michael looked around his restaurant, his grandfather's dream, his father's legacy, his life's work. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for now, he had won. Not just survived, but triumphed. There's just one thing I don't understand, Sarah said. Why go through all this drama today? You already had enough evidence to destroy them. Michael smiled, picking up his grandfather's recipe book. Because sometimes, Sarah, the best revenge isn't served cold. Sometimes it's served hot, fresh, and with a side of justice. Outside, the last of the news vans were pulling away, but Michael knew this story was far from over. Phase 3 would begin tomorrow, and with it, the real revolution in the restaurant industry would begin. 1 month after Dylan's public meltdown, Michael stood in front of Carter's Classic Pizza watching the morning sun reflect off the newly polished windows. The line of customers already wrapped around the block, just as it had every day since the truth came out. But today was different. Ready for this? Sarah asked, joining him at the entrance. She held up a tablet showing the morning's headlines. Riverside Development Executives Indicted in Massive Corporate Conspiracy. And Local Pizzeria Owner Turns Tables on Corporate Raiders. Almost, Michael replied, pulling his grandfather's recipe book from his messenger bag. Just need to do one thing first. Inside, the restaurant hummed with activity. The staff, all new except for Sarah, prepared for the day ahead. The kitchen gleamed with new equipment paid for by the first installment of the settlement from Riverside Development. Michael gathered everyone in the main dining room. Before we open today, there's something you all need to know. He held up the recipe book. This isn't just a collection of pizza recipes. It's a symbol of everything we stand for: tradition, quality, and integrity. He opened the book, revealing pages of handwritten Armenian text. My grandfather wrote these recipes after escaping to America with nothing but his skills and dreams. He believed that food wasn't just sustenance, it was a way to build community, to bring people together. The staff listened intently as Michael continued. What happened to our restaurant, the sabotage, the corporate takeover attempt, it wasn't just about money. It was about the soul of our community. Today we're not just reopening Carter's Classic Pizza. We're launching something bigger. Sarah stepped forward, distributing folders to each employee. "We're calling it the Community Restaurant Protection Initiative. Thanks to the settlement money and the evidence we gathered, we've created a legal fund and support network for other family-owned restaurants facing corporate bullying." Michael nodded. "Every one of you has been carefully chosen not just for your skills, but for your commitment to protecting what makes local restaurants special. From now on, 10% of our profits will go to helping other establishments fight back against predatory tactics." The bell chimed and everyone turned to see an elderly couple enter. Mrs. Romano, their longtime Tuesday regular who had disappeared during the sabotage, stood there with tears in her eyes. "We saw the news," she said, clutching her husband's arm, "about what they did to your grandfather's recipes. We just wanted you to know, no chain restaurant could ever replace what this place means to us." Michael walked over and hugged them both. "Your table's waiting, Mrs. Romano. And wait until you taste what we're serving today." The next few hours were a blur of activity. Every pizza that left the kitchen was perfect, made with the true recipes, served with pride. The food blogger who had once given them a scathing review sat in the corner documenting everything, tears of joy streaming down her face as she tasted the authentic flavors. Around noon, a special delivery arrived. Michael gathered everyone around as Sarah wheeled in a large digital display. On the screen, a live video conference connected them with dozens of other restaurant owners across the country, all victims of similar corporate takeover attempts. "Thanks to what we learned from the Riverside case," Michael announced to the virtual gathering, "we've identified their entire network. The shell companies, the fake review farms, the supplier manipulation tactics, everything. The FBI has already launched investigations in 12 cities." One of the restaurant owners, a woman from Chicago, spoke up. "They tried to force me out last year. I lost everything." "Not everything," Michael replied. "We're filing a class action lawsuit. With the evidence we've gathered, including testimony from Riverside's former CFO, we're not just going to win, we're going to change how these corporations operate." The meeting continued, stories of loss and resilience flowing between people who had never met but shared a common struggle. By the end, a new network had formed, one dedicated to protecting the heart and soul of local dining. As the afternoon wound down, Michael found himself back in his office looking at the walls now covered with family photos, his grandfather in front of the original pizza oven, his father teaching him how to toss dough, and a new addition, a picture of the current staff taken that morning. Sarah knocked and entered with a final piece of news. "Just got word from the FBI. Dylan took a plea deal. He's testifying against everyone involved in the scheme. And Tom and Lisa, community service and mandatory business ethics training. Their testimony helped break the case wide open." She paused. "There's something else. Remember that chain restaurant developer who was going to buy us out? They're being investigated for similar schemes in 3 other states. Turns out Riverside wasn't the only corporation playing this game." Michael nodded, running his hand over his grandfather's recipe book. "You know what the irony is? They thought targeting family restaurants made us weak. They never understood that our connections to our communities, our dedication to tradition, these aren't weaknesses. They're strengths." The sun was setting as Michael finally prepared to close for the day. The last customer had left, the kitchen was spotless, and a new batch of dough was proofing for tomorrow. As he counted the day's receipts, real ones, on the proper paper, he smiled at how different things were from just a month ago. The bell chimed one last time. Michael looked up to see his teenage son walking in, still wearing his baseball uniform. "Hey, Dad," he said, dropping his bag. "Need help prepping for tomorrow?" Michael picked up his grandfather's recipe book, opening it to a well-worn page. "Actually," he said, "I think it's time you learned the real family recipes. In Armenian." As father and son stood side by side in the kitchen, the spirit of 3 generations of Carters filled the air. Outside, the city was changing, but in here, tradition lived on, not as a relic of the past, but as a living, breathing testament to the power of family, community, and a perfectly made pizza. And somewhere, Michael knew, his grandfather was smiling.